We are going to kill the players. We demand a lot from the players. It's too much. I know the business is the business, but it's too much. They play every 3 days. They need to rest. Pep Guardiola. We players are just the puppets of FIFA and UEFA. If there was a players' union that was seriously interested in fighting the number of games, we would not have the Nations League or the expanded Club World Cup. Toni Kroos. What is going on here? Why are we hearing so many complaints from players and coaches about their workload? Are there really so many games played in football? In this video, I'm going to break down the real situation regarding the number of games played. And I'm going to tell you about a crazy story of a football player playing 2 days in a row. And most importantly, I'm going to tell you what players are intending to do about it. Make no mistake, there is trouble brewing in football. Now, I'm going to give you the real data and you be the judge if you think that the footballers are playing too much these days. This data is brought to you by FIFPRO, an international player union which was founded in 1965 and currently unites 66 national football players unions. Recently, they have published a remarkable research piece called the 2023-24 Player Workload Monitoring report, which analyzes the impact of the current football schedule on football players' health, well-being and the quality of the game. I'm going to leave a link in the description if you want to read this report yourself. I highly recommend it. FIFPRO conducted a survey among 100 coaches, sports scientists and medical professionals who concluded that football players should not play more than 55 matches per season. Exceeding this threshold significantly increases the risk of injury and burnout. The surveyed experts also believe that players need at least 28 consecutive days off during the off-season and a flexible 14-day break during the season. Finally, the FIFPRO experts argue that football players should not play more than 6 consecutive back-to-back games. How much does the modern football schedule align with these common sense expectations? Not much, unfortunately. Top footballers who play in national leagues and cups, in continental tournaments and for their national teams sometimes play more than 70 games per season. And as Erling Haaland once said, you can't expect me to sprint for 70 games with over 1,000 meters of sprinting per game. The FIFPRO report shows the list of players with most appearances in the 2024 season. Julian Alvarez, who was a regular for Manchester City and played for Argentina in Copa America and then the Olympics, appeared in a whopping 75 games last year. The rest of the list consists of the usual suspects, players of top club teams who also went to the international tournaments this summer. Overall, the FIFPRO report has found that more than 800 players from among 1,500 research players from the top leagues globally have had high or excessive loads in the 2023-24 season. Playing so many games in a single season inevitably hurts the quality of the games. As Dani Carvajal said, it is impossible to be at full capacity with 72 plus games. I think the appropriate bodies should analyze this because it's practically impossible. The quality of the game drops and we suffer along with our families. It also leads to injuries, particularly for younger players whose bodies has not been fully developed yet. The most infamous example is Pedri's 2020-2021 season when he was just 18 years old, playing a full season for Barcelona, then playing all games in the Euro 2020 and then in the Olympics. I remember seeing his face before the final of the Olympics thinking, man, they are ruining this kid. Pedri's career has since been marred by injuries and he has yet to hit his peak on a consistent basis. But perhaps the most telling piece of data here is the number of games played by top young players now versus 15-20 years ago. Jude Bellingham has played 200 more games than David Beckham, 100 more games than Michael Owen by the time he hit 21. The same is true for many other countries, including Spain. Even though Pedri has had a very injury-prone career so far, he has played way more games than many Spanish legends before the age of 21. Another crucial factor impacting the well-being of players is the time of rest they have between the seasons. But many participants of international tournaments are forced to come back to their club pre-seasons without having a proper rest in the summer. Just look at this list. It's absolutely mind-boggling. How can you be expected to perform properly if you have only 2 days of rest? Let me reiterate, 2 days. Not between games, but between 2 different seasons. That is just inhumane. But what if I told you that it gets worse? Takumi Minamino, the former Liverpool player. Last season, on February the 3rd, he played for Japan against Iran in the Asian Cup. Then he traveled for 6 hours to play for Monaco against Le Havre on February the 4th. Minamino played 2 days in a row with a significant travel between the games. How can this happen? How is this allowed? How is that not a story that shakes the footballing world to its foundations? It is truly crazy. I mean, this guy is not some random amateur player who agrees to play a 5-a-side game 2 days in a row not to let his friends down. It's a top football player. Now, it is important to mention that only players who play in continental tournaments and for their national teams suffer from excessive workload. Players whose teams go far in the Champions League, who play in the World Cup, In other words, top players, players whose jerseys we buy, who we love to watch and who we idolize. They are inevitably going to have poor games every now and then when they have such a packed schedule, and that obviously harms the quality of football. More importantly, the excessive workload puts the health of players at risk. 54% of surveyed players said that they have played despite carrying injuries. 82% of surveyed coaches have admitted fielding players who needed rest in order to achieve results. But instead of listening to football players, the global football authorities have been making things worse by creating more tournaments that no one cares about, like the FIFA Club World Cup and the UEFA Nations League. And finally, players have started to speak out. A few weeks ago, during the national team break, Rodri complained about their crazy schedule, and when the reporters asked if the strike was an option, he said,
"Yeah, I think we're close to that. I mean, because it's easy to understand. I mean, if we're asking something, and I think it's something general, I think you ask any player, he would say the same. It's not like the opinion of Rodri or whatever. No, so I think it's a general opinion of the players. And if it keeps this way, it will be a moment that we have no other option."
Sadly, but symbolically, Rodri got injured days after this interview. He suffered an ACL injury, and one of the common causes of ACL injuries is excessive strain on joints from playing too much football. Several other football names have now supported Rodri. Barca's Jules Koundé said, "I agree with everything Rodri said. The calendar is getting longer every year. We have more matches and less time off. We have been saying this for a long time and nobody pays attention to us. Neither the players nor the coaches are listened to. There will come a time when we will have to go on strike because it's the only way for those who decide to understand us. We need to get organized so that there can be a collective voice. It will be more powerful when the message comes from an organization that brings together many players. We have to talk about it and organize." Then Pep Guardiola chimed in when asked about a potential strike. "If something is going to change, it must come from the players. The business can be without managers, can be without sporting directors, can be without media, can be without owners, but without the players cannot be played. Only they have the power to do it." Few others have made similar statements, and when big names like Rodri, Kroos and Guardiola speak out, it means that things may go beyond threats. It feels like if more voices support this idea, we may see a concrete action by players at some point. FIFA has previously downplayed criticism of the schedule, particularly regarding the Club World Cup, accusing the critics of hypocrisy. I mean, well done FIFA, way to go with a tone-deaf reaction. But it would be wise for FIFA to be more attentive here. It won't be the first time that the football players organize and go on strike and get what they wanted. There were strikes by football players in Italy and Spain not that long ago, in 2011. There was a threat of strike in the 1960s in England, which forced the English football authorities to abolish the wage limit. By the way, if you want to hear more about these strikes, let me know in the comments and I will make a video about them. So don't say that a strike by football players will never happen. If football players decide to organize and refuse playing before the schedule is altered, unpredictable things can happen. It has happened before, which means that it may happen again. Some of you may say that you don't care about some rich guys complaining about working too much. But we're talking about the well-being and health of football players. Nobody wants to see a player of Rodri's caliber missing the whole season. Nobody wants to see football players getting hurt. Nobody wants to see a poor football quality just because the players are too exhausted. There are legitimate problems with the modern football schedule, and things are getting worse with pointless tournaments like the FIFA Club World Cup being added to the schedule. Football authorities are not listening to players, and things may well reach the boiling point if nothing changes. See you on the next one.